Am I audible? Oh God, yeah. Hello.
Can you hear me, Dr. Ajit?
Yes, yes, I can hear you, Dr. Aafrin. I think you are not.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Can you
Fine.
try to share your screen again? 1 second.
Yes, I will do that.
Yeah, share screen. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, very good.
Great. So, apologies, everyone, but I believe that everything that starts with a little bit of hiccups ends well. So, with that note, let's go ahead. We have already wasted few minutes. So, what I will cover today is the introduction. Basically, we have spoken about myself a little bit. Introduction of medical writing has already been given by Dr. Ajit. So the next is scope of medical writing, which means where all medical writing is useful. Then qualities of of effective medical writing or a medical writer, I would say. What is the writer's role and considerations while writing a publication? So what I mean by publication, so publication writing will include manuscripts, abstracts, slides, posters. There's a lot more
Dr.
which,
Afrin, sorry for interruption. Can you
yeah.
please keep your mic little away from the?
Is this better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as I said, apart from this, actually nowadays publications also have lot many things like systematic literature reviews, narrative reviews, but we have not covered all that. It is a very vast topic, and maybe the with the given time slot, we won't be able to do justice to everything. So that's why I have kept it restricted to manuscripts, abstracts, slides, and posters. But that does not mean that there are not any more publications that are done. So the scope of medical writing, as I said, medical writing is a very, very, very vast field, and along with drug development, as the drug development proceeds, with each step of drug development, there is a different scope for medical writing. Most of it, maybe the regulatory aspects and what are the internal reports and stuff like that are being covered by my colleagues and industry friends. But what our focus for today will be conference presentations, which will include abstract, oral presentation, posters, and journal articles, that is original research papers, review articles, case reports, letter to editors. As I said, there are reviews, there are systematic literature reviews, there is meta-analysis, which is a new thing, not new thing, but a developed version. And of course, a lot of internal documents that are done for sharing with internal team members or KOLs. Apart from this, one more form of medical writing is writing for purposes of marketing. So once your brand is into the market, when you want to grow its sales, then you train your medical representatives. There are slides for training them, there are training manuals that are also written by medical writers. Then there are different types of slides, presentations, newsletters, which are done for informing the physicians, that are also written by medical writer. So, as I said, it is a very, very, very vast scope. And when you start, basically, if I may say so, it is good to gain experience, a little bit of it, into all forms of writing, and then decide what is your forte. For example, when I started with publications. My mentor, he was a writer himself, and he used to write manuscripts, and I joined him. I started with publications, and then as I proceeded, I did some safety writing, I did some regulatory writing, I did narratives, I wrote for medico marketing, I did a lot of it, and then finally, I felt that publication is something that interests me. I think I'm good in doing publications. I think that is what I love to do, and therefore, you know in last few years I have focused totally into writing publications document, and I think that kind of increases your expertise into it. So as a fresher, I feel that as a step forward into the industry, you may join whatever field you want to, but later on specialize yourself into one form of the writing. uh, Coming to what are the qualities of effective medical writer. So if I look back, and if I see my mistakes, actually, I feel that these are the things which, it does not mean that I have made all these mistakes, but these are the things which I feel are the points you should consider when you think you want to make your statements effectively, and when you want to be heard, and when you want the industry to acknowledge the type of expertise you have. uh, that's why maybe I have just listed down this. So first and foremost, plan effectively. And I think the first step, uh, that I'm very glad to know you all have taken, is join this workshop. It is your first step. You are planning your career, you are knowing what you want to do. So similarly, when you start your career as a medical writer also, I feel that with every project and every document that you do, you should plan your further steps very proficiently. You should plan each stage of the document. You should plan how you will deliver the document, when you will deliver the document, and what are the other things that you need, along the journey of that document. uh, Other things, by that I mean, maybe you need help from somebody, maybe you need some support from a reviewer, maybe you need some other person to QC your data. So whatever it is, it should be planned at the beginning of the document. And if I may say so, each writer is a project manager also. Your project is your baby. You need to manage it from end to end. You need to decide what are the timelines. You need to decide if you are doing multitasking, and if you are doing, by that I mean, you have to do as you grow in your career. You do not work on a single document at a time. You work on multiple of them. So if you are writing two abstracts and two manuscripts, and then you have to deliver them by xyz date, then you should plan how you will take all those documents, which document you are going to prioritize, which document can be put on a little bit back seat, and all that stuff. So I think a good writer is a good planner also. The second point is behave ethically. So we will come to this later when we talk specifically about ethics and publications. But I think overall, this is not only a quality of a medical writer, it is a quality of a human being. So when you are ethical in your dealings, when you are not cheating your audience, when you are not cheating your client, uh, and by cheating I don't mean doing big blunders, even small things like just copy pasting something from somewhere and saying that this is my own. So when you are doing that, you cannot progress. So basically you need to be very ethical in your practices. The third point is protect patients confidentiality. As a medical writer, we are dealing with patient data and the data which is very, very, very important to the patients that we are handling. It may be a patient, it may be a data from a single patient, it may be data from thousands of patients. And to be very honest, generally the data that we get in big settings like the CROs or the pharma companies, it is generally masked. You will never know the patient name or whatever. But suppose you are working with a physician, suppose you are working directly with a doctor, and the doctor wants to write a case report for one of his patients, then maybe you have the access to complete file of that patient. In that case, you know the name of the patient, all the medical history, and this is the information which is very, very confidential for the patient, especially in diseases like maybe HIV or diseases like STDs. So the patient does not want to disclose. And to be very honest, none of the medical history has to be disclosed. It is not allowed. The doctor himself cannot disclose patient history. Similar rules apply to you. You have to protect patients' confidentiality at all cost. You can never give away names, you can never publish photographs of your patient. You know, if you publish the photographs, you have to kind of mask their eyes or mask their face so that that uh, identity is protected. So all that stuff. Now these were the general things. When we come to writing specifically, to be a effective medical writer, the first and foremost important thing is to know your audience, know who you are going to write for. We will discuss this in the later slides, but according to me, in this all bullet points that I have listed, the most important thing is knowing your audience and knowing your subject. Okay, so knowing your subject again. I hope I am not very fast. Hello?
Hello.
No,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes. No, ma'am. Correct.
Okay,
It's a
great.
good pace.
Okay, great. So, to know your subject, what I mean by that, when you start, maybe you are from a pharmacy background, you are from a medical background, or you are from life sciences. So, the therapeutic area, for example, you are writing for diabetes, it may not be your forte. You may not know deep down. I mean, we all know what diabetes is, but we may not know what patient related outcomes are for diabetes related studies, or we may not know how drug efficacy is measured in diabetes trial. So when you start writing a subject, what I prefer is knowing my subject. When I'm writing for diabetes, read about it. Read literature which has been published in diabetes. If you're writing for a particular drug, read about that drug. Read about the literature that has been published for that drug. By knowing the therapeutic area, by knowing your medicine or your drug effectively, you can, weave a story around it, which again we will discuss in length. But when you don't know your subject, or when you don't know your therapy area or your molecule, you are very restricted, because you do not have enough material to write on. When you for example start writing a review article, it is a very vast document. If you haven't read say around 50 literature articles, you won't be able to collaborate all those ideas, you won't be able to spin it into a story, you won't be able to produce a output. So always, when I said plan effectively, these things also are included in that. When you are planning, when you are deciding, all this take into consideration, take into the consideration the time that you will take to learn your subject. When you are for example, you are giving a sponsor that a timeline that in 2 days I'll do my case report, so consider that in 2 days, which means maybe 8 plus 8 hours, in 16 hours you are going to invest maybe 4 hours in just reading. So make it a consideration in your plan, make it a consideration at the start of your project. um, Next thing is write clearly. Okay. What happens is there are people who have lot of knowledge, there are people who are experts in their field. Okay. uh, and let me take some liberty and tell you that you can give an example of a doctor. We can again say diabetes as a subject. He may be a diabetologist. He knows his subject very well. He knows all the medications, all the problems, all the patients, everything. He has a thorough knowledge of his subject, what we saw in the previous bullet. But he cannot write clearly. He does not know how to write. He does not know how to present ideas. So, therefore, he needs a writer, right? Why the physicians come to you and tell you that we want to write a manuscript? Why do they come to you and say that we want to give a presentation and can you please make our slides? Because you, as a writer, write clearly. You are an expert in writing. They know the subject but they cannot write. So that is the difference between, knowing your subject and writing clearly. Always make it a point that when you write for your audience. You write in such a manner that whatever person or whoever is reading your manuscript or abstract or poster, he can understand every word that you have written. He can make sense of every word that you have put in that document. Okay. And next is look at the big picture. So what happens is over a period of time, when you write and when you kind of start doing the same kinds of document again and again, it happens in our industry. Because especially when you are working for big companies, your role becomes confined to certain medications, your role becomes confined to certain therapy areas, and then you start losing interest. But you should look at the bigger picture. You are not just writing, you are contributing to research. You're contributing to the knowledge that is going out. You're contributing to the data that is going in the public, and the public is going to make use of that. So it is not just, you know, writing. In a bigger picture, it is contributing to science. It is contributing to the uh, data that generations to come can read. If you go and search, we have articles dated back to the 90s and 80s. So imagine, I mean, something written in 80 can be read today also. So that is the bigger picture. You are contributing to it. You are producing something, you are making something that is going to be available for the generations to come. So put your heart and soul into it and deliver your best. Therefore, look at the bigger picture. Next, never stop learning. I very sincerely believe in this. I believe that you are never a perfect writer. There is always something to learn. After 13 years, there is so much that I need to learn myself. Every day, every new project that I do is a new challenge for me. It's never that, oh, I have done this previously and this is just going to be a cakewalk for me. No. Every project that I do, either in the results that I'm presenting or the discussions that I'm having with my authors, every project I'm learning something new. Every time I am getting a topic, I need to go back, I need to visit the basics, I need to read through the literature. That is a practice even now. So learning never stops. And the next and final point that I thought of was start small and think out of the box. So, as I said, writing is a learning process. You cannot be a writer in one day. You have to start small. Start writing small pieces, start writing abstract, start writing a healthcare blog, start writing something that is you know uh, that gives you an idea of what your writing skills are, know yourself, and then eventually proceed and gain expertise and grow. And always think of the out of the box. Never follow the path. I think as a writer we are not only scientific but very creative people. So the more you think out of the box, I think the more you are acknowledged as a writer. You have to contribute to the manuscript that you're writing or the abstract you're writing. You cannot just be mechanical and jot down the points. Okay, next slide. So yeah, this again relates to our first point: plan effectively. Every minute you spend in organizing is an hour earned. So the more you plan, the better your future projects will be, the better your end result will be. You won't have to spend a lot of time later in correcting the stuff. So it's always better, though you initially feel that you are spending a lot of time there, but I think it is worth spending those hours. Okay, and this is my favorite slide. So basically, when I picked up this picture, it was not related to medical writing. It was just picture on Google, but I could relate to it so much, and therefore I thought this is the right thing to use when I describe the writer's role. So according to me, a writer is a bridge between a client or a sponsor or whoever. I mean, a doctor who wants to write an abstract, or a pharma company, whoever who has the data. So a writer is a bridge between that person and the audience. So here, if you see, the blue one I say is a client or a customer or a pharma or a doctor, whoever, and the red one is the audience. And the customer or the doctor will give you an idea. So these people that you see running, according to me, these are ideas or these are data. And this is the hand, this is your hand. So when they give you, it is in very rough or very preliminary form, and as it comes in your hand, you can see it is decorated, it becomes perfect, it
Yes.
becomes formal,
Yeah.
you know. So that is the beauty of this picture, that this is what you want to do. You want to take abstract data from the person who wants to convey that data and deliver it to the audience in the form that the audience will like it. Okay.
Yes.
uh, Coming to some effective writing tricks, as I said, before think before you start writing. So basically, every document, now when we are talking about publications, so for example, I am writing a manuscript or I am writing an abstract. When I have a project in my hand, these are the four questions I think about. First, who am I writing this for? That is, who is my audience? If I'm writing a manuscript, it is for the physicians, it may be for the researchers, it may be for students who are going to, you know, work on some thesis for their PhD and they come and read my manuscript. So those are my audience. I need to see that all these people understand what I am writing. So I need to understand my audience to know what they will like. So every project, first think who is your audience. When I'm writing an abstract to be submitted to the conference, who is going to read that abstract? First, when the abstract selection is going on, the Congress people read it. They are the experts in the field, right? So I need to present my abstract in such a concise and positive and clear manner that the conference selectors approve of my abstract. Once the abstract is approved, then the next step, the presentation or the poster, who's going to read it? All the people who are attending that conference. They can be physicians, they can be researchers, they can be students, they can be marketing people who come from different pharmas, they can be competitive intelligence guys, they can be market research analysts, So all these people are going to read my posters or see my presentations. So I have to keep them in mind when I write or make my poster and presentation. So this is a very important question. For example, today, when I'm talking or giving this, I'm considering that 70% of our audience is fresher, or they have just completed their graduation, and rest 30 may have some experience into scientific writing or clinical research industry or somewhere else. So this is the presentation that I have made. But suppose I was delivering this presentation for somebody who had 10 years of medical writing experience. I would not deliver this presentation like this. First of all, maybe I would not deliver this presentation at all because they know the topic. So, therefore, knowing your audience helps you decide what you're going to write, how you're going to write, and whether you're going to write it or not. Okay. Next, why am I writing this? What is my purpose? Okay. The second thing is, it is very important to know your goals. For example, again, if I'm writing a case study for marketing, so that some sales of some brand goes up, then definitely I will try to write it in a manner which highlights that why it should be used, what are the aspects that you will gain out of this particular treatment option. Okay, I will present it in a manner which is appealing. I'll give out the graphs, I'll give out pictures, maybe I will give out a patient story where a patient narrates that I took this medicine and this happened and that happened. Okay, because that is something that I'm doing for making others prescribe that medication, making the sales grow. On the other hand, if the purpose is purely communicating the scientific data, then I may not use those kinds of, highlighters or those kinds of bold statements. Rather, I will be subdued. I will just present facts. These facts are going to go, for example, to FDA for approval of a drug. You just present the data. You just give away that this was what was there at the baseline or at the start of treatment, and this was what happened at the end of treatment. Whether it was good or bad or not, you know, worthy of consideration, whatever. But you present those results because the FDA wants to know everything. So look at the purpose, look at why you are writing it. So consider the audience and consider the purpose, and then also decide after both of this, what I am writing, will it suit this purpose? Okay. So basically, as I said, I cannot give away that marketing document to the FDA and tell them, please approve my medication. I cannot do that. That is not the style. They have particular format in which the data needs to be submitted to them. So my audience I know, my purpose I know, and then I know the form in which I need to submit that data. Right? If I'm writing it for just the researchers or the physicians, I know my audience, I know my purpose, then maybe manuscript is the best way. On an abstract, if I do not have uh, a full data analysis done, if I just have few interim data that I want the researchers to know, the medical community to know, then maybe I'll write an abstract, I'll make a poster out of it and submit it to some conference. So depending on what is my audience and purpose, I will decide what style I will adopt. Okay. And again, why I said, sorry, just coming to a last point, why I said that we are creative people. It is because we just don't throw away the data at the audience. We just don't give away the numbers that this was the number, that was the number, that was the number. The audience will lose interest. They don't want to know it, right? So, as I said, the target audience is different. If you are regulators or you are from market or you are from congress, journal, clinician, you just don't want the numbers. You want it in a particular form. You have to be creative. You want to have a narrative out of it. You should spin a story out of it. You should let your audience know that why this should be of interest to them, why they should read this. I have always said, whenever the first few lines of a document are interesting, the audience are going to read it till the end. Just take an example. When you read your books, any books, fiction, non-fiction, if you don't like the first 2 or 3 pages, you leave away the book. It may be very interesting in the end, but you don't like the start. So that is how the articles are. That is how the publications or the abstracts or posters should be. They should catch your attention. They should make you want to read till the end. If they do that, then you have succeeded as a writer. Okay. This is all what we have discussed. Purpose is the reason or the goal that you have for your writing. Okay. Then message, you know uh, as I said, for different audience, you will have a different way how to share that message. You can just not go and tell somebody on phone call that, oh, FDA, look, I have this data, kindly approve my medication. And then there should be a narrative. So you cannot just give a messy number package and think that people will understand you. Somebody has said that poor communication narrative hurts the outcome. I mean, if your narrative is not good, if your story is not good, your outcome won't be good. Okay. And then, of course, clear writing that we spoke about also in the qualities of a writer, that we should use simple, short words. We should avoid jargons. We should be specific. We should be concrete, not abstract. Don't use flowery words when you're writing scientific data that is not required. And then say what you mean what you say. Do not give away just statements which do not make any sense. uh, and This is an interesting graph actually. If you see the most important reasons, okay, for why the journal does not accept the manuscript, or for the editors to say that these manuscripts are problem, are not related to the data. The data may be very very good, but then it is inappropriate presentation, it is poorly written, it is poor description, it is like a self promotion, it is confused, okay, it is boring. So if you see how important are these things, it is not just the data that drives the publications for acceptance, it is also how we present it. Okay. Now, coming to the uh, next thing, literature search. Literature search is a very very important aspect on of writing publications. To start, I will let you know here that we are covering these topics just as a touch on them, kind of an approach. Each of this topic is a very very big topic in itself. You can spend a complete slide deck on literature search or manuscript writing or abstract writing. But what I am doing here is just giving you a brief idea, so that if you are wanting to take your career ahead in these particular things, you know what these are. And if you want to know more, or maybe you need more guidance, you can definitely approach the team and we can see how we can help you. So this is just informing you about the basics. So there are many online libraries. uh, there is a issue with my sharing, otherwise I would have showed you PubMed and stuff. But PubMed is the most used one. It is a free online library. You can just go there, you can Google PubMed, click on it, you can type some keyword, for example the disease that you want to study, or the medication, or the outcome that you want to study, and it will give you a list of articles. Okay. As I said, there are various features in this literature search that you can use. There are advanced features like you can restrict which year to which year publications you want to see. You can restrict if you want to see only the English published articles. You can restrict if you want to see the human studies or animal studies. You can restrict the type of articles you want to see. Do you want to see the review articles? Do you want to see the case reports? Do you want to see the randomized trials? So it will give you all options. So a general suggestion after our session, today's session, maybe you can in the evening or tomorrow just Google PubMed, go there, browse through it. It is very self-explanatory, and you can learn a lot just by clicking on the tabs and reading through. They also have their own resources where they can help you about using the PubMed. Okay. Similarly, Embase is another. There's Scopus, there is Cochrane, there are a lot of it. There is Google Scholar, but PubMed is generally the most used. Okay. Now coming to the type of publications. So let's start with Manuscript. uh, so basically, I will describe the Manuscript in the four main topics that we saw previously: the audience, the purpose, the narrative, and the um, goal. So basically, Manuscript, as I said earlier, also, it is written for the researchers, or it is written for people who want to know more about a particular drug or more about a particular disease area. It can be physicians who read what are the new medications coming, what are the results. It can be students, as I said, who read it because they want to maybe plan their research work, write their thesis or whatsoever. So this is generally not viewed by common public, I mean layman, you can say. This is generally a specialized document, and therefore it is very, very scientific. You will not find very rosy language in this. It is very to the point. It should be to the point. It is very compact, concise. It is something that you can just make sense out of. You won't find data which is you know just laid here and there. So that is the audience and the purpose of it. Now coming to the narrative. Okay? The narrative or the story of a manuscript generally is in four sections. And I won't say the manuscript. Generally, these four sections apply to all the publications in some way or the other. We'll come back to the other publication later, but it is known as IMRAD format. I stands for introduction, M stands for methods, R stands for result, A is and D is discussion. So these are the four sections. In the introduction, basically, you give away why are you doing the studies. Okay, basically you are letting others know that what is available in the literature till now, what has been done before you, and why is this particular research question or why is this particular topic that you are writing on is important. So basically you are making a background, or you can say you are making the plot of the story. So this is what introduction is. It should be concise, it should have a flow, it should not be very jumpy. You can start, for example, if I am writing, I will take the same example. If I'm writing about diabetes, I will write how massively the diabetes has spread across globe, and what are the consequences, what are the effects on health and all that stuff. And maybe I have a new medicine for diabetes. So I will write what are the medicines that are previously available for diabetes, and what is the uh, despite of this medicines, what is the problem which is still not answered. And therefore we did this study so that our medicine may answer the question that has been left unanswered. So that is the flow you will do for the introduction. Then coming to the method section. So in method section, you will describe again, if you take a original article, or if you're writing a manuscript based on some study, randomized controlled trial maybe that was done, so you will describe what are the steps that were uh, adopted while conducting this study. For example, if it was randomization, how the randomization was done, which kind of patients were included, what were the inclusion criterias, what were the exclusion criterias, then how did you administer that medication to the patients, were they supposed to stop all the previous medication, or were they allowed to take some other medications, and finally how the data was analyzed. Once the data was generated, how what was it analyzed, which comes into the statistical analysis section. You also write what outcomes you were looking for, right? For example, again, in diabetes, the outcome that we generally look for is decrease in the sugar levels. Okay, so that is my outcome. So I'll write that after end of say 16 weeks, we studied how much reduction in the BSL happened from the baseline. Okay, then maybe we also studied the adverse event or the side effects of that medication, that will also come. So all this stuff is described in the methodology. Then we come to the results. So in results, one important thing that should be noted is describe the results in the same way that you discuss your outcomes in the methodology. For example, you may have four outcomes. What was your fasting BSL, what was your PPA BSL, what was your HbA1c level, or what was your side effect. For example, if you have these sequence, make sure that you also narrate your results in a similar sequence. You give away the result for fasting BSL first, then the PPBSL, then the HbA1c, and then the side effects. So always retain that flow. Okay, and in results, just describe the results, just describe the numbers. You do not have to explain the results in the results section. Okay, that explanation comes in the discussion. So in discussion, you have to tell the audience what sense your results make. Okay, and if there were similar studies like yours, how your results are similar or different than those studies. Okay, you have to tell them that what your results are adding to the value, adding to the science. You have to tell them what were your limitations, why your results may be applicable to general populations, or why they may not be applicable to the general populations. So everything that you need to discuss about your results goes into the discussion section. Am I clear about these sections?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
yes,
Okay,
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Aafrin. Yes.
great, great.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, so repeat what?
Uh,
Maybe we can, go on.
in the discussion session, we can
Yes,
go.
in the
Yes,
discussion we can go.
yes, yes, yes.
Yep. So the next is steps to organizing your manuscript. So first, this is how I write my manuscript. Not necessarily all the writers do that. When you start writing, you will know what is your most comfortable style. Okay, stick to that, because maybe that helps you become more productive there, that gives you more flair for your writing. So just see what suits you, but I have just pointed out few things that suit me, or that the way I write my results. So generally, first I prepare my tables and figures based on the data that is given to me. The data can be given in the form of a completed clinical study report. Okay, the data can be given as a raw data only as statistical reports, statistical generated outcomes, or maybe if I'm writing a review paper, my data will be based on the other manuscripts that are published. So depending on whatever data that is available to me, I prepare the figures and tables. Again, the figures and tables are based on the outcomes that we discussed. Okay, now we will come to this, that what are authors guidelines. But when preparing a manuscript, it is very important to always follow what the journal wants you to do. For example, if you're targeting to submit it to XYZ journal, and that XYZ journal says that we allow only 5 tables and figures, then make sure that your figures and tables are not exceeded. There are 5 or less than 5. Okay, so do that. After that, I write an introduction. Writing an introduction gives me two advantage. One, I know about the background of the subject and all that stuff, and mind you, I have read before that. Okay, this is when I start the project. This is not during my planning stage. So in my planning stage, I have read few papers, but when I'm writing introduction, it further gives me insight into more details about the topic and the subject. So I choose to write my introduction first. Few people think that it is wise to write the introduction after methods and results, because that will modify their introduction. But that is not what I adapt. Then I write the methods, then the results, and finally the discussion. Whatever results I have written in my results section, all of them I discuss in my discussion section. I do not leave them. Okay, unless and until there is nothing to say about it in rare cases when there is nothing to compare, but otherwise I make sure that I am discussing everything. And finally, I end the manuscript with a clear conclusion. Okay, now all this again will depend on your journal guidelines. Journal gives you a word count, say 2500 or 3000 words. So I try to fit in all this stuff, all this introduction, method, result, discussion, conclusion in that word count. I do not exceed that word count. Okay, and you should not, otherwise the journal will not accept it. You should take care that you do it in the first draft itself. Many people, just dump all the data and then they think in the final draft will cut the data, but then that becomes very difficult. So make sure that when you are making your first draft itself, you have read the journal guidelines and you adhere to it and you adhere to the word count. And finally, after all this is done, then I write my abstract, because then it gives me a clear idea which results I'm going to include in my abstract, which is results I may not include. Because abstract is very concise, it is generally 250 to 300 words. So after writing the complete manuscript, I write the abstract. After the abstract, I kind of try to modify the results. I won't say that I do not give any title, but it is a working title, you may say, and later on I modify my title to make a final title. I select keywords that I can give for indexing my journal. Finally, I write the acknowledgements and I check the references. I cite them while I am writing them, so I do not keep it at the end. As I write statements, keep on referencing so that later on I'm not confused, and I have referenced the correct statement to the correct article. So, and at the end, finally I check that all my references are correct. They indicate the data that I have cited them for, and their format is correct and all that stuff. Okay, this is how I write my manuscript. Again, the length of the manuscript. Title, I keep it very short, informative. Abstract is generally paragraph less than 250 words, 250 to 300. Introduction, I do not stretch for more than one and a half to 2 pages. Generally 2 pages is also more. One and a half is fine. Methods is 2 to 3 pages. Results 6 to 8 pages. Generally the guidelines give that, but my results may not span. It depends on the study and the results that you are presenting. And finally, discussion. Okay, conclusion is one last paragraph. Figures 6 to 8, or maybe depending upon the journal guidelines, of course tables are the same. I put one figure on one page so that it is very clear. We can write the abbreviations and all, we can give a clear title. And finally, the references. Okay, this is how my manuscript is. Now, I hope whatever I discussed is clear, right?
Yes, Dr. Afrin.
Okay. Now coming to abstract. Abstract is very, very similar to the manuscript. It is just a concise form. So if you can see, it also has all these sections: the background or the introduction, the methods, the results, and the conclusion. So what you have to do, similar to your manuscript, you have to just take a summary out of each section of your manuscript and put it in your abstract. But if you are kind of writing it for a congress, then maybe your manuscript is not done. Then make sure that you stick to the conference guideline and you give away the data that you want to give. Maybe you cannot present all your results in the abstract itself, so later on you have a liberty that you discuss few results when you are giving the oral presentation or you are giving the poster, but stick to this format. Always remember that the abstract is a complete document in itself. It should be very, very, very concise and clear. It should convey the meaning very accurately. You cannot just say that, okay, fine, if my abstract is not understood, people will go and read the manuscript. Generally, remember that if your abstract is not good, people do not read your manuscript, or the congress people will not approve your abstract. So abstract is a very small but a very, very significant document. Okay. Now, as I said, there are a lot of review articles. I won't touch or give away the details of it, but I just thought I will list them. There are narrative reviews in which you pick up few articles of your interest, say 50 or 70, and then you read them all, and then you make a summary out of this and you put it in a compact, nice format, and you try to derive some result. For example, if you are studying a drug A and you want to know if it is effective in diabetes, you will see all the literature published for drug A in diabetes, and then you will write a review on it. It can be short in the form of editorials or commentaries. uh, then it can be narrative overview. What is difference between narrative reviews and overviews? Not much, but narrative overviews, generally I say that, when it is a disease and you are giving epidemiological information or something, then you can say it is a narrative overview. Then there are systematic reviews and there are quantitative systematic reviews, which we also call as meta-analysis. Now coming to the slide deck. uh, Again, as I said, be aware of your audiences, whether they are students, clinicians, patients, medical representatives, subject matter experts. Tell a story. The like every document, the slide deck also should start with an introduction. It should have your main material. You will see plenty of examples of slide deck today, so I have not shown any example, but it has an introduction. It will convey your main message or the main discussion points, and then finally it will have a conclusion. Okay, so always tell a story in your slide deck. Always remember that each slide must be a complete document. Do not think that you can say refer to slide first. You can never do that. Your slide, when a person looks at your slide, it should be complete entity. For example, it should have statements. If you want to put a figure there. If there are abbreviations, expand those abbreviations, give away the references. Now my slides do not have references because it is like a discussion, but if I'm writing a scientific slide deck, then definitely I reference it. I give away the literature from which I have taken that information. You have to also reference the figures or the tables that you are using for that slide deck. Okay. And in slides, it is always, always good to use illustrations. Slides should not be very text heavy. Wherever possible, use bullet points, use pictures, use tables. It makes your presentation effective. Okay. Now this is an example of poster. Same thing as I discussed. IMRAD, there is a background. There is, here methodology is not there, maybe because of the constraint, but then there are results. In results also they have described, as I said, in pictures. Maximum are pictures or graphs or something. and then finally they have their conclusions. At the bottom, if you can see, there are references also. Then there is a title, there are the authors listed, and everything. So this
Dr.
is how.
Afrin, sorry
Yeah,
for interruption. We have 10 more minutes.
yeah, I'll be ending it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just at the end of it.
Yes.
So this is how. So always remember, in posters it is important to follow the congress guidelines. The congresses give you the size of your poster. They can be either e-poster, which are very frequently used these days, or they can be paper posters which are mounted in the congress. So the congress people give away the size of the e-poster as well as the paper poster. They give away, if they want two column, for example, this is a two column poster, right? They can be a three column poster. This is a portrait form. There can be a landscape form. So all these instructions are given in the congress guidelines, to make sure that you refer to the congress guidelines when you start your poster. Then a big aspect of poster is designing, which generally you cannot do. Okay, so there are graphic designers to help you with this. I'm sorry. And you have to work hand in hand with them to get your poster to the shape that you want to. And finally, in poster, the additional stuff is transporting and mounting. If it is a paper poster, then sometimes your sponsors, especially if you're working in pharma company or a CRO, they want you to print that poster, transport that poster, and finally mount that poster on the provided area. So that is one additional work. Okay. Now some practical guidelines which we can just rush through them. So as I said, plan effectively. If you have a original research, have a clear research question. Basically, as writers, we may not be very good at statistics, so always seek advice from your statistical expert. Use the right study design. This is more applicable when you are involved from the start. Especially nowadays, you work with a lot of physicians, a lot of doctors who want you to plan their study also. uh, these are generally observational studies or something. So in that, and later you have to write a manuscript based on that. So in that case, you have to use the right study design, act ethically, keep an open mind and minimum bias. So as I said, we are not perfect. So when generally your manuscript is being reviewed by somebody else, they give you a lot of comments. Don't be hurt, or don't let your ego come and tell you that, oh, I know my writing so well, and how can she or he give me so many comments? It's open, it's okay. Take it positively, keep an open mind. If at the end the objective is making the document better, so if the comments are making your document better, I accept them with open hands and make the changes. Okay. Minimize bias. Check who will be authors and contributors. This is also very essential. Right at the starts, please check your authors and contributors, because these are going to give you comments. These are going to approve your documents, and later on it becomes a lot of headache. So it is always good to finalize your authors, contributors, and your journal or your conference at the beginning of the project. And very, very important, agree to publish even the negative results. As a writer, sometimes you have to take a stand. Even if the sponsor does not want to publish negative result, you have to tell them that it is not ethically wise to do so. If you are giving 10 positives and one negative, that is absolutely fine, you should give it. If your results or if your study did not meet your endpoints, you should still publish it. So always agree to publish even the negative results. Okay. We talked about this. Guidance on writing research papers. There are a lot of committees available. One of them is International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, ICMGE. Then there is ISMAP. Then there are EMWA, which is like American Medical Writer Association. There is IMWA, which is European Medical Writer Association. Recently, DIA also opened a medical writing chapter in India. So we have lot and lot of committees. Always go to them. There are a lot of freely available matter and material available. Read through it. You will definitely get a guidance on writing your research papers. And then this is equator. Okay, you can also google this. It has lot of material and lot of guidelines on how to write. For example, if you have systematic reviews, how to write. If you have observational studies, what are the guidelines. If it is experimental, there are like concert guidelines and strobe and all that stuff. So it is like a vast topic, but just to let you know that guidelines are available. Finally, acknowledge, always acknowledge who did what. Apart from authors, who are the main people who design the trial or who, contribute to the science. There are a lot of people that there are people who help you just make the tables and figures look good. There are people who help you with analysis, but they are not the authors. Then there are writers like us who have contributed so significantly to the manuscript. So everybody should be acknowledged. You acknowledge, and you know let people know who has contributed to what. Nowadays that it is mandatory to acknowledge the writers. Initially it was not so. People like me who started in 2000s generally served as ghost writers. We wrote so many publications, but our name did not feature anywhere. So that is not allowed now. And avoid misconduct. So never fabricate your data, which means of never make up your data. You do not have some data and you just make up some data because you want to write uh, abstract. That is just not right. It is not ethical. Okay, so be ethical. Do not fabricate, do not falsify your data, do not give away wrong data. Suppose you want your p value is coming very close to zero point 0.5, but it is not less than zero point 0.5, so do not say that it was less than zero point 0.5. Give away what is actually there. Okay,
Yeah.
that happens, that practically happens.
Yes.
And plagiarism. Okay, if you see, when I spoke so much about it, so much efforts I presented, that we need to put in, we need to plan, we need to do. So a writer puts so much effort, even if it is writing an abstract, even if it is writing a blog. And when you copy paste that stuff and make it your own, I mean, it is not done. So please do not copy any person's ideas or processes or results or words. And if you're doing that, then give appropriate credit. Like if we are taking something from the literature, we reference it, we cite it. Why? Because we want to give the credit for that data. We two things: we want to acknowledge that data is authentic, and we want to give that person the credit for their data. So please do not copy paste. I think as a new writer, it is a tendency to do it because that seems to be a simpler part. But uh, nobody is perfect, so make your own way, learn at each step, but do not copy paste. And final take home message is read, read, read. So the more you read, the more better writer you become. So that is the only thing I want to give you back, that whether it is guidelines, whether it is the recommendations from societies, whether it is new data in the literature, whether it is about science, whether it is blogs or whatever, or news about science, please read. The more you read, the more you learn. So with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for patient listening, and I hope that you at least have got an idea about publications. And if you have any more questions, you can always reach out to Dr. Ajit Singh. In fact, if Dr. Ajit permits, we can also share email addresses. You can write back to us your
Yes.
feedbacks, your questions, or if you want any guidance, and I will be happy to help.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely. We'll. If there are some questions, we will definitely do that. Okay. So we have limited time, but still, I will open the question answer session for 5 minutes. You can ask your questions. Okay. What is meant by narrative writing and medical communication? Can you please enlighten Dr. Afrin? Some question is there.
Narrative writing. Okay. So generally what happens is, when a patient has a side effect, what we call as adverse event, we generally write a narrative for that patient, in which we list down what was the patient's history prior to his enrollment in the trial, and after receiving the treatment, what happened to him, what was that particular adverse event related to the treatment that we gave him, and something more. I mean, something that describes that event, when that event started, when that event ended, was that event serious, and all that stuff. All that is known as a narrative. So that is narrative writing. And what was the other thing?
Other thing was medical communication.
Okay, so medical communication is basically all of this. Everything related to medical writing is medical communication. And in medical communication, of course, generally, uh, they say that regulatory writing is different. Medical communication also only means publications or medico marketing writing. But according to me, everything that communicates science is medical communication.
Yes. Okay. So next question is how to select a genuine journal to publish our article because there are many false journals.
Exactly. Yes, that there was a very good LinkedIn post 2 days back. Nowadays, the journals are offering services wherein,
Yeah.
if you add your abstract, they give you a list of journals that can be most applicable to your work. So maybe, we can share that article or that link after the sessions, and maybe you all can go through.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We have
Uh,
that services now. Relay is providing, Elsevier is providing, I think so, Science Direct is providing.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm, okay. So one question is there. Could you please brief me on the plain language summaries?
Yes. So, what has happened is, since more and more people who are not too much inclined towards science, for example, as I said, nowadays literature is also being used by market analysts who may not be researchers, or may not have uh, core life science background, or they are also being used by people who do not understand research to depths. So for that, the journals are recommending that apart from an abstract, you write a small paragraph which is a summary which a normal person can understand. A person with basic education who has some knowledge about English can understand it. It is kind of abstract, but not in a very scientific language. So that is called plain language summaries. And many journals like BMJ and stuff are now recommending plain language summaries.
Okay, I will take one more question from the YouTube. What is the basic difference between CDM and medical writing, Dr. Afrin?
Oh, that is there is a lot of difference. I mean, CDM is clinical data management. It is a field wherein you get the ECRFs, I mean the case report forms,
Yes.
which are either in paper format or electronic format. You look at the data from that clinical research forms, and you see if there is something missing, some wrong. For example, normally the BP range is between 120 to 70. So 120 80, we are expecting that if we are seeing the healthy population plus minus 10. But if somebody writes a BP of say 1000 of Hg, you definitely know that there is a typo. He might mean 100 and it is not 1000. So the clinical data managers look at the data, send the queries, and get the data corrected.
Yes. So next question is, okay, so there are many requests for your email ID, Dr. Afrin. So whoever wants to contact Dr. Afrin can share their queries to me, and we will be in contact with Dr. Afrin later. And next is, please throw some light on regulatory writing. Regulatory writing is the next session. So
Yes.
yes, so
Yes.
our next speaker will be talking about the regulatory writing. Need not to worry. Okay. I am from the drug or device safety role. How can connect to medical writing career in late phase with more experience?
As I said, look on for opportunities. You may not. Nowadays, people are open. If you have a little bit background of clinical research, if you have life science background, people are open to give you opportunities. You might not land your dream role at the first day, but if you can take small steps towards writing, eventually after a few years, I think you can be a writer that you wish to be.
Okay, there are a few more questions that we are going to take in panel discussions. We are
Sure.
already fixed. Without doing any publication, am I eligible to work in medical writing? I will take in the next panel discussion. What
Sure.
would be the profile of medical writing in companies? That also we will take in the panel discussion later at the end. And now one more question from here. Okay, one more last question. Jobs in medical writing we will discuss in the panel discussion. Then, okay. Ma'am, if candidate got opportunity in pharmacovigilance or clinical research, can that candidate shift to medical writing domain?
Yeah, yeah, of course. As I said, nowadays people are open. In pharmacovigilance, also, there is some kind of writing. For example, you write narratives, you do safety reports in pharmacovigilance also. So, if you want to shift towards safety writing, where safety reports are written, you can do that. If you want to shift to regulatory later on, you can do that. I think the field is quite open nowadays.
Yes. Okay. So I will just ask one more short question. What exactly is the letter to editor?
Okay, letter to editor. As I said, all these things are a topic in itself. And a letter to editor, sometimes you do a research, right? And the data generated is not so much that you can write a full manuscript for it.
Yes.
So then what you do is generally you write a letter to editor in which you have like one or two outcomes. You discuss that, you give away one or two figures, and you just have your data there, but it is not in the form of a complete manuscript.
Yes. Thank.
You just go and maybe Google or in PubMed, as I said, you type in, you can just search for letter to editors and you will get an idea.
Yes, jobs for fresher. I will discuss in the panel discussion. Okay, so right now we are lacking of time for the next session. So someone is asking, may we have a break of 10 to 15 minutes after Q and session? No, because we are already delayed. So next session will be starting in 2 minutes. We have shared the link with you in your group. Please join us with that link, and YouTube link will be sharing in 2 minutes. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, Dr. Afrin, for the wonderful session. It was really good for our, the students as well as for the budding writers.
Thank you so much, it was a pleasure, and
Yes,
I hope that everyone benefits from it.
yes. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay,
And link is there if you wish to join us in again, in next session. Thank you. Thank
thanks,
you all.
bye.
Yes, thank you. Bye bye.